What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. It's been a long time since I last posted, but my last video, you guys saw it. It was on the M62 E30, and I just basically ended up giving up because I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get this to fire up. I got it to crank off camera, but I couldn't get it to fire up. The injectors weren't firing, and I wasn't getting any spark from the spark plugs. I tried multiple things. I tried CPS. I went through the entire wiring harness. I had that adapter from Redline Motorsports. I went through everything. I checked everything. I verified all the pins were good, and all of that stuff checked out. And I want to say my last thought on it was probably going to be that the ECU might have been a faulty one, but I did pay like $500 to get that ECU modified. I had to get the EWS deleted off of it, but I just didn't want to gamble it and then it potentially not solve the problem, and then I'm just like back to square one and I'm just wasting the extra money. So I ended up picking up this E34. Was a 1994 or 1995 530i. Those come with the M60 B30, which is what I have right here in front of me. I got it as a parts car. A plus was that the car was actually a manual, so I have the manual transmission harness, and the M60 B30 harness is the same as the M60 B40, and you can actually get this to work on the M62 B44 non-Vanos with a few modifications. So I'm going to be doing that in today's video. I'm going to be modifying the cam trigger wheel on the M62. There's a write-up on the forums on how to do it. I've never done it before, but a lot of people say it looks pretty straightforward. It's a little confusing reading it at first, but I think when you actually do it, it might be pretty simple. So I'm going to be knocking that out in this video. Another thing that you got to do is the CPS. So you got to figure out something with that. So the CPS on the M60 B30 is on the front right here. So you have your CPS right there, has a bracket for it, and then it has the crank with those teeth right there. So it's a lot different on the N62 B44. It has its CPS, I think, on the back of the transmission bell housing. So what I want to try out, I don't think there's anybody else out there that has put this information out there. I think they just written about it, but nobody can actually confirm if it does work. I'm going to extend the CPS wiring from this OBD1 harness. I'm going to make it go all the way to the transmission and see if I can get a reading off the flywheel, and hopefully that works. So option number 2 is going to be to get this bracket welded onto the timing cover in the front over here, and obviously that's going to work, and I just got to swap over the cranks, which that's a lot easier, or that's the second easiest option. The third, what might seem easy, which I don't really think so, is swapping out the timing covers. I've also read online that the timing covers are a little different from M60 to M62 and that they don't seal completely right. So I'd rather not have any kind of oil leaks, but that would be like a third option if it doesn't work. But I'm just going to do either two. So I'm going to try the first one, extend the wiring, and if not, I'm just going to get the bracket welded onto the M62 lower timing cover, and we should be able to get it working. There is other small differences with water pump, thermostat, just like small stuff. I think the knock sensors are different too on the M60. So there is a few things that you got to swap over, and as I go along, I'll figure that out, obviously. But just off the top of my head, I know the most important ones is you got to modify the cam trigger wheel, water pump, thermostat, and then obviously figuring out with what's going on with the CPS. But we're gonna try it out and just figure it out along the way and see what happens. All right, so I got the valve covers off. I got the cam blocks on, got the engine to top dead center. So obviously just want to make sure that you have the timing marks aligned. So you'll see that it has the OT mark right here on the pulley, And then you also see that it has that mark, the OT mark on the lower timing case. So just want to make sure those are aligned. After that's aligned, you just want to make sure that the cams in the back, they'll have some lettering. The first cam right here will have an A. This one will have an E in the back. So you just want to make sure that they're all facing up. If they don't face up for whatever reason, just rotate it again one more time and they should align, and then you'll be able to get your cam blocks on. So right now I'm going to swap out the crank pulley with the M61. So I'm just going to remove all of these 13mm bolts. To use two hands for this. So the CPS has to be aligned with the flat spot right here on the crank balancer, but obviously we don't have this bracket on the M62, and I'm not going the route of actually welding on the bracket just yet. Like I said, I'm going to try to extend the wiring to the transmission and see if you can get it to fire up like that. But since I don't, I'm going to align it. I'm going to use this water pump bolt to align it. So I'm just going to count the teeth. It's just going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm just going to mark it. It looks like it's a little bit, it looks like it might be in the center, maybe a little bit over to the right. So when I remove this crank balancer and I put it onto the M62, I'm just going to align it with the water pump bolt, if that makes sense. But I'll show you guys right now, and it'll make a little bit more sense. So we're not going to install it to the M62. All right, now we can remove the upper timing cover, and we can also remove some tension from the tensioner bolt. It's gonna need a bolt right there. Something to align. All right, so now we're gonna remove the cam trigger wheel, which is this one. But we also got to be careful to make sure that we don't remove the sprocket, because then that's going to mess up like all the timing and everything. So we're going to crack all these bolts loose. They're all eTorx 9. So just crack them all loose first, and then we just got to carefully remove the cam trigger wheel. We're going to take it off, and then we're going to get a few bolts and put them back on. All right, now we're going to reinstall the cover with the tensioner. Now we're going to remove this cam sensor. I almost forgot, we got to take off the cam locks. Can't leave these on. So we got to rotate the crank. So take these off. These are the letters that I was talking about earlier. You got an A on this cam, you got an E on this cam, and it's the same thing on this side. There it is. You got an A and an E right there. We're gonna align the the crank balancer. So remember that I marked it over here. I'm just gonna rotate it counterclockwise until we align this this tooth with the bolt right here on the water pump. Make sure we perfectly get it aligned. I think that's pretty good right there. We're gonna grab a Sharpie or get a paint pen, and we're gonna go over to the cam sensor, and we're gonna make a marking directly in the center on the cam sprocket. So directly in the center right there. And we're gonna make a vertical line just like that. All right, now we're gonna rotate the engine back to TDC, and we're gonna get the cam locks back in place. So I'm gonna do that off camera real quick just to make sure that I get everything nice and accurate, and then I'll show you guys once I'm all done. I guess it's worth mentioning, just make sure you go back clockwise. All right, got the engine at top dead center again, and I got the cam locks on, so we're gonna remove the upper timing cover again. Now that we have the timing cover off, we can take off these E-Torques once again, E10s, and we just got to be careful to make sure that the cam sprocket doesn't come off. All right, so now we're gonna grab the cam sensor wheel, and what we're gonna do with this is we're gonna position it in whatever way one of these tabs right here. You got 1 tab, 2 tabs, 3 tabs, and 4 tabs right here. In whatever way that it's gonna align directly with this line that we marked through the cam sensor hole. So here's how I got this one. Positioned it with the first tab right here. Looks good. So basically now what we have to do is cut out the rest of it, and we're gonna leave just this tab right here. And now we can take it off. All right, so this is what the modified cam trigger wheel should look like. As you guys see, I cut around the edges. This is the tab that we're gonna be keeping. And I am following the written DIY that's on the forums on how to do this. So it does describe that we have to actually cut off a little bit from the tab and bend it a little bit, but it doesn't say exactly how much. So I'm gonna have to figure that out on my own. I'm gonna have to put the cover back on, take off the cam locks, put the engine back to where we marked it at, align it with the water pump bolt, and then see how much clearance I have from the M60 cam sensor, and just take all of those measurements. You guys won't have to do this. I'll figure it out, and I'll measure it with the feeler gauge, the distance between this and the M60 cam sensor. So luckily I have the M60 B30 that I can use as a reference, and I can just take the measurements from there and just get, you know, some 100% accurate information as far as this, and I'll let you guys know what modifications we have to make to this. So I'm going to do all of this off camera, since it's going to be a lot of going back and forth, and as soon as I figure it out, I'll pick it back up and I'll show you guys exactly what we need to cut and how much we need to bend and how much clearance we need. All we're trying to replicate is, I don't know if you guys can see in there, but there's the pickup point right there. So this is magnetic, and that's how it gets those readings. So that's all we're just trying to replicate, is that. So I'll take the valve cover off of this, and I'll measure the distance in between this point and that pickup point inside of there, and then just replicate it on this one on the M62, and should be good. All right, so I have the valve cover off right here, the M60 B30, and like I said, I was gonna take some measurements just to measure the distance in between the pickup point off the cam sprocket and the cam sensor. So as you guys can see, I have a feeler gauge right in between. So I found the perfect size, so just so you guys can see, it focuses right there. You guys can see that it fits right in between there. So this is the biggest size that I had, and it seems to be the perfect size. So it's 0.35 or 0.88 millimeters. So here's what I got going on so far. As you guys can see, I have the tab straightened out a little bit. So where I bent mine was on this corner here. So I put a flathead on the inside of it on this corner, so it just doesn't bend from this section. And then I straightened out this front piece from right here to here. You can probably see it on camera. It's still a little bit bent, but I am gonna make the cuts now. So where I'm gonna cut it is I'm just gonna have it align with the cam sprocket. So as you guys can see, it goes over to the chain just a little bit. I don't know if you guys can tell on camera, but it goes over to the chain just a little bit. So I'm gonna cut off this section and just round it off and just have it match with the cam sprocket. So I know it's kind of hard to tell on camera, but oh, right there's a better angle. So you guys can see it goes over to the chain a little bit. So I'm gonna mark it, cut it, and then I'm gonna try to straighten it out a little bit. Take the measurements again with the feeler gauge with the M60 cam sensor installed, and it should be perfect. So make the cuts right now. Got it nice and even with the cam sprocket. I already turned it and it lines up perfectly, or well, it lines up perfectly with the cam sensor, and it also has that perfect distance in between the gap that we need. Remember, it's 0.35 or 0.88. You can just get one of these feeler gauges from Amazon or AutoZone, O'Reilly's, Harbor Freight should have them. Just make sure it goes up to 0.35 or 0.88 or higher, and you should be able to take that measurement. But that's basically it. That's how you modify the cam trigger wheel on the M62. So I'm gonna leave the rest of that on pause. Just gonna put the valve covers back on and just finish that up. But going over here to the car, there's a whole lot of things that I want to do before I throw the engine in for what could possibly be the last time. So as you guys look in here, yeah, there's a lot of rust that has built up over the time that it's been sitting. It's just surface rust, so I just got to grind it down and just paint it. But there's a lot of holes that I want to patch up from doing the brake booster. You guys can see that over there. So there's just a lot of things that I want to finalize inside of the bay before I throw the engine in for the last time, and then throw the M60 harness on and try to get this thing fired up. So I at least want to finalize all of this stuff. So it's going to be a while, or not a while, but just got to finish all this stuff up, and then we'll be able to throw inside the M62, and hopefully we get it running this time. But it's going to be a lot easier with the OBD1 conversion. So that is basically it, guys. That is how you modify the cam trigger wheel on the M62. I guess you can call this part one. I'm going to upload a lot more videos on the entire conversion, moving over the harness, seeing what else we got to move over from the M60 B30 to the M62 B44 non-Vanos to make everything work. Obviously, I'm really curious to see if the CPS going to the transmission is actually going to work, or if we're going to have to get that bracket welded over to the front. So that's going to be interesting to know. So just make sure you guys are subscribed so you guys don't miss the next parts to this. And if this video helped you guys out, just leave a like for me. Comment down below if you guys are doing like a similar swap, or if you guys have anything to say, any advice, or if you guys have done this in the past and it works. Let me know down below in the comments section. Definitely want to know. So that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.